Welcome into the NWSL preview whip around show alongside former U.S. international Lori Lindsey. I'm Lisa Roman. The 2023 NWSL regular season is here. It kicks off March 25th, and you can watch all the games across CBS Sports and Paramount Plus platforms. Lori, it has been 147 days since the NWSL championship and opening match day in NWSL. Yeah, I had to do a little math there, but we're finally back.
Yeah, it feels great. I do like your math because I didn't know it was 147 days. I just felt like it's been an eternity. So here we are. But good to be chatting with you. Love the rebrand. Look at you all.
Thank you. Yes, it is good to be here with Attacking Third, but it has been such a busy, long offseason for the NWSL. We saw an NWSL college draft, lots of trades happening, and the first ever NWSL free agency period. So players that had been in the league with at least 6 years of service and their contracts were done, they were eligible for free agency. And we saw over 45 free agents in the NWSL making history this year. There was a lot of movement and some top prospects. So I got to know from you, Lori, who was your top free agent prospect in the move in the offseason?
Yeah, I'm looking no further than Davinia. I mean, lights out, right? I mean, we've known what she's meant to this league. I think 12 goals, 4 assists in 2022, 6 years with North Carolina, and then just on the move. And I think speaks to her ability being one of the best players in the world with the interest over in Europe, but then also with some other teams here in the NWSL, and then ultimately landing with the Kansas City Current. So also speaks directly to Kansas City Current and
Hmm.
their aggression to, even though they got to the final last season, to find ways to improve their squad, what they're doing off the field with their training facility, their state of the art stadium that's in the works. I think slated to be underway or finished essentially by 2024. So lots happening there. But yeah, Davinia, my goodness. And I am excited, which I think we'll speak about in a little bit, but Kansas City and what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so much to be excited about with Kansas City. And I think all they're doing with their club and the facility is part of what pulled not only Dabinia, but a handful of other free agents to the Midwest at this point. I mean, yeah, Dabinia, top of the list for sure. But I think sometimes people overlook one of the biggest in my eyes, defender Kelly O'Hara. This was a free agent that got picked up from Gotham early in the window, actually a little bit too early. The club ended up getting banned for the announcement of O'Hara, but this is a player that started her NWSL career in North Jersey with then Sky Blue, and then she ends up going to Washington Spirit for just 2 seasons, one in which she wins the NWSL championship with the Spirit. Now the US international defender O'Hara back with Gotham FC, and I think that speaks to what Gotham is trying to do at that club, having a turnaround season, which we're going to talk about these clubs and what they're doing this year. But I love this free agent pickup for Gotham, getting O'Hara. I mean, this is a player that has over 150 caps with the United States women's national team. And there's just so many players that got picked up. And offseason was a time for certain teams to bulk up, but also certain teams to retain a lot of players. I mean, we saw OL Reign retain the most players of any NWSL club, 24 returners from the 2022 season. But there was also a lot of productive movements for teams in the offseason. So, which team had the most productivity this offseason?
Well, I'm going with the same team that Dabini plays for now as the Kansas City Current. I mean, listen, it was you and I were talking off air as well, and it was a difficult one for me because it was a toss up between Gotham and Kansas City Current. I am going to
Yeah.
go with Kansas City Current just in the fact that I think you got a huge pickup in Dabinia. You have Morgan Gautrat and Vanessa DiBernardo coming over from Chicago. Those are two players that Morgan Gautrat with international experience, obviously, but also just to end up so much NWSL experience, which I think sometimes goes not underappreciated, but the necessity, especially in years like we're about to partake in, which is a World Cup year, and a lot of players are going to be gone during that time frame. So, but then also Michelle Cooper. Yes, we did see Lynn
Yes.
Williams go to Gotham, but obviously trying to figure out, I think with Kansas City, a good balance in terms of experience and within age, but then also some younger players that they can continue to mold. And then Alexis Spancho, one of those as well, who's coming from the University of Virginia, who has versatility to her game, which
Mhm.
I think will suit her well on this team. And not to mention, this is a team that made it to the championship, right? So there was a bit of ups and downs to that season. They weathered that storm. They made it to the championship. But I think in terms of what they did in the offseason just proves to the standard of this league, right? I mean, we're seeing so much
Mhm.
in the off. I mentioned a second ago, which is just their aggression off the field as well with the facilities that they're putting into place, and I think that attracts the talent that we're talking about. So they ultimately won out for me, even though Gotham was like just so close.
I mean, yeah, with Kansas City, they made it to the final. So did they need to shake up that much and rebuild that much in the offseason? I don't think so. But I agree with you in that Kansas City won the free agency, getting a Dabinia and a Vanessa DiBernardo, Morgan Gautrat, top talent midfielders. But I am so curious to see how this Kansas City midfield looks in this first week of play. You talked about Gotham. Don't worry, Laura. I got you covered there. I think Gotham was my team that benefited the most from this offseason. And they had a lot to build on, right? The only place this Gotham side could go in 2023 was up. They finished dead last in 2022. They only had 4 wins all year. And they dealt with a lot of coaching turnover and some locker room antics last year that didn't leave for a lot of stability. In the offseason, they made an initial signing to get Juan Carlos Amaros as their head coach, a coach that was coming from Houston and led the Dash to their first ever NWSL postseason appearance. And then they start making drastic changes. It started with the draft, and they had 2 first-round draft picks for a minute. Then they end up trading and getting forward Lynn Williams, U.S. international from Kansas City. That's just going to bulk up that front line for Gotham. That's looking a little slim at this point. But then they also get the 4th overall draft pick, midfielder out of Florida State University, Jenna Knightswanger. That's a huge grab for this Gotham side. They picked up Kristen Edmonds in the free agency, goalkeeper Abby Smith, who came off of that Portland winning team in 2022. They got Yasmin Ryan also from that Portland side. Kelly O'Hara as well as the free agent. I think that Gotham had the most improvement to make in this offseason, and they could have done it in small steps. Instead, they went for some heavy hitters, Kelly O'Hara and Lynn Williams, that are going to bulk up the front line and the defensive line. Abby Smith in goal. This is a team that is going to look drastically different from 2022. So I'm excited what they can bring in 2023.
Yeah, same. And I think, you throw in the mix some players that they already have, which is Taylor Smith. We've seen
Yeah.
her versatility, right? She can play. We saw her play in the right back position. She can play up top. And so that's the type of movement that you want to see, I think, when you have a team that's going to lose some of those players
Mhm.
to international duty, but then to be able to move pieces around. And I'll be curious because Juan Carlos Amaros has talked about wanting to be a team that's going to press, repress, that makes sense
Yeah.
with Lynn Williams, one of the best in the world at that, what she brings, but then also just a team that wants to be more front footed than I think that we saw last year.
Yeah, and with all the new signings, we have to remember that there were so many free agency re-signings that happened, and
Yep.
Gotham retained a lot of players. As you just mentioned, Taylor Smith, one of the most versatile players for this Gotham side, Mandy Friedman, a defender, McCall Zerboni in the midfield, and then Ifioma Anamano in the front line. I think all of those pieces proved to me that Gotham was one of the best, but now they have to prove it because NWSL Week 1 is here. It's new matchups between either teams, new rosters, new team identities, and it all kicks off Saturday, March 25th on Paramount Plus. Lori, we've got all 12 teams competing this weekend, 6 matches. I am so thrilled for it, but I've got to know, which is your opening weekend match game to watch?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, listen, I mean, I think we could be talking about every single team here, and I know you and Sandra have done that. So I mean, it's just exciting times, and I think for many different reasons, right? To because of retaining some of the personnel, but also making changes. But mine has to go with Angel City and Gotham, right? It's this like kind of new rivalry, obviously new because Angel City just playing in their second season ever. But this like coast rivalry, I think they're
Yes.
trying to make. I think the expectations on these two teams, but not only from like the outside, internally, what these teams are looking to do. And while Angel City had just missed out on the playoffs last season, I think overall they want to see improvement. They want to see themselves in the playoffs. Right, that's the expectation for them, and very much so Gotham. Just to the many reasons why you explained in terms of like their off-season acquisitions, quite
Mhm.
frankly. So I'm looking at this game because I think not only do I expect Gotham to come out looking very different, and I think that really depends too on how these pieces gel, right? Because preseason looks very different than all
Yeah.
of a sudden you're playing your first game and when it matters most, right? So, but with these new players under new coach for Gotham, and then Angel City's gonna be a packed house. We
Mhm.
know what that looks like when they are playing at home, the energy they bring. What does that allow for Angel City? Angel City with Alyssa Thompson, the number one draft pick, 18-year-old who is lights out. But then also, I think because my only question mark about Angel City right now is the depth, right? Because they still
Yeah.
have some missing pieces to their squad, some key missing pieces due to injury, and the depth, particularly still in the midfield. That was a question that a lot of us had last year, and being able to rotate players. But I think one piece that's back that will help that considerably is Sarah Gordon. I mean, when she was in Chicago, she missed last season due to ACL injury. She's back. Chicago, when she played there, gave them so much versatility in the way they play. And I think that only helps this Angel City team because she can play in a three back, she can play in a four back, she can play anywhere on that back line herself. But I think when we're talking about the depth conversation, she helps with that because late in the games when they conceded a ton of goals last year, gave up some leads, um, they have the ability then with her in there to push up if they're chasing a game to maybe push a center mid in that just allows for more rotation going forward. You have the ability to put an extra center back there depending
Mhm.
on the formation they're playing in. So I think her alone and her presence back there with her experience gives us a different look. But I think just these two teams coming into this year, the expectations that they have on themselves with in particular, Lynn Williams for Gotham, Alyssa
Yeah.
Thompson, and just a few new faces, right? Makes me looking at that competition the most.
The bar is high. The bar is
Yeah,
high for a couple
certainly.
of those forwards, for sure, and I think it will be interesting to see how it all kind of shakes out because Angel City did deal with so many injuries last year, and now that they've got a key piece of that back line back in Sarah Gordon, how are they gonna look differently this year in ways that they can attack? So you can catch Angel City and Gotham. That's the nightcap on Sunday. The last game kicks off at 9 o'clock Eastern. I'm gonna bookend the weekend because kicking it all off on Saturday afternoon, North Carolina Courage against Kansas City Current starts the weekend. Davinia, I want to see how she fits into Matt Potter's Kansas City Current midfield. There are a lot of new pieces in the midfield for Kansas City. Where are they all going to shake out? How is it going to come to fruition? Are they going to change the style that they play to fit a little bit better to Davinia? I think we might see that coming from this Kansas City side. And they're going up against the 2022 Challenge Cup winners in North Carolina Courage, Davinia's old team. I want to see the sparks flying, the rivalry between these teams, and her going up against her former club. I also want to see what Sean Nahas is doing with North Carolina and the Courage side, because this is a team that went through a lot of ups and downs last year. They lost some key pieces defensively in trades with Racing Louisville defender Abby Urseg, defender Carson Pickett, but they also gained really big pieces. U.S. International Emily Fox in that back line, Tyler Lucy, who was with Angel City last year as a defender. She's listed as a forward. She's back in that front line for Sean Nahas. I want to see Tyler Lucy contributing and getting in the mix of everything. And of course, Denise O'Sullivan, the engine in the midfield for North Carolina, the Irish international. She's going to need to put this team on her back. It's going to be a very big test with all of their draft picks for North Carolina getting signed early on to long term extensions. How are those young pieces and rookies going to fit into the puzzle? And then going up against Matt Potter's side with a lot of new faces. But there are so many top players in this league and so much talent. And it's really a fresh slate for so many of them to make their marks on their club and their league. So when you're watching this weekend, Lori, who's your player that you're keeping an eye on?
Yeah, I think it is still Lynn Williams.
Mhm.
We mentioned Gotham and that matchup with Angel City, and I'm going to be extremely curious on what she brings to this team. I mean, I know we know what she brings on the field. We saw it in the last international window with the U.S. and just the presence she brings in defense from that front line. But yeah, I think that this team from Lynn Williams alone and the work rate and her ability to be so good on both sides of the ball, I think is going to not only help continuously put Midge Purce and Anamanu in even better positions up top, depending on the formation, right? But
Mhm.
I would imagine those three or some grouping of that three, depending on where they are, will be three of the front six, right? And I think that this gives them a completely different look because one of the issues I think they had last year was the fact that once the ball turned over, just teams were able to like put them under pressure defensively. And I
Mhm.
think when you have a front runner like Lynn Williams and who can defend from the front, then that just allows for everybody to be able to get forward, be on the front foot, push numbers even more into the attack. And I think I'm excited to see Lynn Williams. We missed her last season playing with Kansas City, so now back with Gotham, and I think she gives them a different look this entire year.
And Lynn Williams with that counter pressing energy, it's almost a trickle down effect to the rest of the team because then the rest of the defense steps up. They've got that renewed energy. A lot of pressure on Lynn Williams to bring this Gotham side out of the bottom of the table. For me, when I'm watching North Carolina and Kansas City Current, there's a lot of stars that are going to be on the field, but I'm curious to see sophomore season defender Alex Luera. This was a very big piece for Matt Potter's Kansas City side last year. She played in the center back role. He pushed her higher into the midfield. She's one of those players that constantly wants to be on the field, wants to be in scoring positions. And we saw that last year in her rookie year, contributing to a lot of goals, helping this team make it all the way to the NWSL championship. How does Alex Luera fit into this lineup? I think it's going to be really crucial for her if she's in the center back role to continue her growth of that leadership. And she's only in her second year in the league, but I think she's the player that can take it to the next level, that she cannot have a sophomore slump. And it starts from the first weekend and the first game. I think we'll see her have a little bit more of a defensive role running throughout this team. But when she's given the opportunity to split lines with her passes, she's got great vision on the ball to connect with those frontline players and the attacking midfielders. That's where Matt Potter in Kansas City is going to lean on a young player like Luera. I'm excited to see her in action for Kansas City, and she's going to grow so much playing alongside a Debinha, Brazilian international. I mean, the ceiling for Alex Luera is incredibly high, and it all starts this weekend. Lori, the NWSL is back. Finally, I can't say it enough. I can't smile any harder than I am right now. It all starts Saturday, March 25th. There's a doubleheader on Saturday and then 4 games to close out the weekend on Sunday. You can catch all the games on CBS Sports platforms.